じゃあ、始めてよろしいですか？
はい、お願いします。
はい。Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the seminar on unrest, social and solidarity economy and SSC-related works organized by JASID, the Japan Society for International Development, SSC Research Group. I'm Naoko Takasu, a member of this research group, and I'll be your MC for the first half. Today's agenda is what you can see on the screen. We will listen to Mr. Ilton E for about 40 minutes, followed by Professor Saito's comments for about 5 minutes. Then we will open the floor to questions and answer and discussion for another 40 minutes, and it will be moderated by Professor Furusawa. Now let me introduce you, Mr. Ilchon E. He is Senior Research Coordinator leading Alternative Economies for Transformation at the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development. Prior to joining UNREST in 2008, he was Associate Professor at Kyushu University, and we are delighted to have a lot of participants from Kyushu University. He holds Doctor of Philosophy from Oxford University. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over the microphone to Mr. Ilton E. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I mean, I'm very glad to see all those familiar faces from my old university, Kyushu University, and I'm very happy to see friends in Japan as well. I know many of professors and researchers in this group because we met in different places in the world to talk about social policy sometimes, or social and solidarity economy other times. And today I'm going to talk about social and solidarity economy and UNREST work on social and solidarity economy, because this is organized by SSC Research Group of JASID. Before I begin my presentation, I will talk about two things. If you have any kind of problem with understanding of specific jargons, or kind of jargons commonly used in the SSA community, and if you're not familiar with those jargons, I mean, don't hesitate to make questions about those jargons. And secondly, from time to time, if there is any difficult kind of concept or theories in terms of Japanese context, maybe I can speak a little bit about those concepts or context in Japanese. I try my Japanese to facilitate better understanding between us. So I will start my presentation now. So when we talk about SSE within the context of UN system, we have to talk about development goals, because all the beginnings of SSE discourses and practices within UN system started with these discourses on the development goals within UN system. So as you know, the SDGs have some key features different from those of MDGs. So first of all, SDGs should be applied to both developed and developing countries. And SDGs, as you know, have very much comprehensive goal sets, 17 goals, 169 targets. And frankly speaking, I cannot think of any other goals than SDGs. So I guess if we start the discussion about post-2030, maybe around 2026 or 7, I don't think we're going to talk about new goals. I think we will talk about probably how to implement already existing goals, or if we talk about new goal, maybe goal related to digital technology, perhaps. Otherwise, I don't think there will be discussion about the new goals because SDGs are very much comprehensive goal sets. As you know, SDGs called for very much radical kind of argument for transformation. When I joined UNRWA in 2008, transformation was kind of taboo word within the UN system because transformation implies revolution or very much radical change within UN system, and not many member states liked it. So agencies did not like using that term like transformation or even revolution things. So using the term transformation itself is very much a radical move of UN system. And 230 agenda emphasized the importance of the role played by enterprises and civil sector. So although MDGs had kind of emphasis on the private sector, but I think the kind of intensive discourse on the role of private sector started from the declaration of these SDGs. And as you know, SDG 17 is about the means of implementation, and SDGs have great emphasis on the means of implementation, especially it argues for the kind of a means of implementation based on balanced and integrated manner. So it emphasizes balanced and integrated approach, and it emphasizes the kind of different tools or means of implementation. That means it implies the possibility of plural economies composed of capitalist economy and other forms or types of economies too. So there are so many implicit points of the SDGs, because even though the SDGs document was very much comprehensive, but there are some things which was not spoken explicitly in the document. I think one of them is the kind of ambition or intention to deal with the system to create and recreate inequalities or structural problems of current economic system. So we all know that leaving no one behind as a slogan for the SDGs, but the system also suggests to think of the kind of strategies to deal with the system to continuously push somebody behind. So if we, deal with the system to push somebody behind, we don't have to think about the system to address, to address the system leaving somebody behind. So I think, it implies the kind of a strategy to deal with root causes of the structural issues or problems in this system we live with. So that is some points leading us to the social and solidarity economy, which I'm going to talk about soon. And second implicit point is the kind of social aspect of sustainable consumption and production. If you look at the targets of Goal 12, sustainable consumption and production, they are mostly about environmental aspects. But in fact, sustainable consumption and production is talking about both environmentally and socially sustainable consumption and production. So that is, again, one point to link us to the social and solidarity economy. Third implicit point is inclusive societies and inclusive institutions, which is the Goal 16. Normally, Goal 16 is known as the kind of goal related to the governance, and it emphasizes responsive, inclusive, and representative decision-making. So this is related to democratic governance within organization and beyond organization. So it can be the kind of democratic governance of organization, and it can be democratic governance of society. So again, it is related to the social and solidarity economy. Then what is social and solidarity economy? We can find so many old practices which can be the source of this social and solidarity concept in various parts of the world. In Africa, we have Ujama, we have Susu, and in Asia, of course, I mean, in Korea, we have Sema Undong. In Japan, maybe you have one product, one belief movement. So there are so many tradition-based grassroots organizations which have some elements related to SSE in different parts of the world. And those different types of tradition-based organizations develop into modern forms, namely mutual associations, self-help groups, fair trade organizations, alternative food networks, community forest groups, cooperatives, various associations of informal workers. So SSE definitions are also diverse because we have so many different forms of SSE in the world, and that definition of SSE should cover or encompass those different types of forms of SSE organizations and entities. So in UNRISD, we had SSE definition like economic activities and market relations, prioritizing social and often environmental objectives over profit motives, which are guided by principles and practices of cooperation, solidarity, and democratic self-management. And this concept was became the basis of the definition of the SSE at the 2022 International Labour Conference and 2023 UN General Assembly document. So according to the UN General Assembly's resolution on the SSE in 2023, the social and solidarity economy is defined like this. Surprisingly, this is one sentence. I mean, this is one of the UN documents problem because we have very long sentence sometimes, and I think it would be good to extract some important aspects of SSE from this one sentence definition. So I'd like to highlight three kind of elements of SSE definition. Firstly, the SSE is about economic, social, and environmental activities to serve the collective and or general interest, which are based on the principles of voluntary cooperation, mutual aid, democratic and or participatory governance, autonomy and independence and primacy of people, and social purpose of over capital. This is one aspect of social and solidarity economy. And it says social and solidarity economy put into practice a set of values which are intrinsic to their functioning and consistent with care for people and planet, equality and fairness, interdependence, self-governance, transparency, and accountability, and the attainment of decent work and livelihoods. So this is about the kind of practices of SSE. And third element is types or forms of SSE organizations and entities. SSE includes cooperatives, associations, mutual societies, foundations, social enterprises, self-help groups, and other entities operating in accordance with the values and principles of the social and solidarity economy. So in a way, the SSE concept is very broad umbrella concept to encompass various types of organizations and entities based on principal values and principles of cooperation, solidarity, and democracy. And as you know, the kind of because SSE has a very broad concept and very broad range of different organizations. They deal with all those SDGs in terms of practices or goal settings. And as I said, we have very much very diverse forms of SSE in the world, and somewhere it is called social economy, other places it is understood as a solidarity economy. Somebody called SSE as community economies, or social enterprises are understood as SSE in some places. And SSE has some features in addition to those definitions. Wu-Ting wrote the kind of features in his book, published in 2015. Like, it constructs the concept of work, and it has comparative advantage in particular activities, such as basic provision of basic needs services, and it broadens access to finance, and it manages common pool resources and the environmental resources, and it organizes and empowers people to enhance bargaining power in accessing key resources and setting prices. And it is a less hierarchical organization. It can make more democratic workplaces, and it promotes more equitable patterns of income and profit distribution. And it often reinvigorates the role of communities and citizens in both the economy and polity. And naturally, it has many interfaces with other types of economies, such as public economy, business for-profit economy, and popular economy. And this relationship is very important for SSE to survive in this world, because without these linkages or close relationships with other economies, it is quite difficult for SSE to survive the challenges. Then how does SSE contribute to development? For instance, how does SSE contribute to creating decent work and reducing inequalities? We have several researches, but normally those researches are focusing on cooperatives, because cooperative sector is the most well-organized sector, and they had kind of a tradition of doing census surveys to measure the impact and number of cooperatives and all that. So mainly all those statistics related to impact of SSE are about those of cooperatives. So here we have cooperatives statistics about impact, and it has 2.6 million cooperatives and 1 billion memberships and clients. So given that we have 70 billion population in the world, and it is not small size if it is members of this cooperative sector. And the largest 100 publicly traded companies had employees of 17.5 million, and compared to that, 770,000 cooperatives have 12.6 million employees. So again, it is not that small size in terms of employment. And annual revenue as well, global Fortune 500 companies have $27.7 trillion, and 770 cooperatives have $3 trillion of annual revenue. especially in New Zealand and Netherlands, France, and Finland, they have more than 10% of GDP produced by cooperative sector only. And this is the data from Dave Grace and Associates in 2015. You can see the cooperatives numbers, members, employees, assets, and annual gross revenues. And this is the kind of very much latest statistics estimated by Hyung-sik, the ICA director of research department, and he made an estimate of number of jobs created in and through cooperatives like this. And according to him, 279 million jobs were created by cooperatives, and compared to 3.32 billion jobs in the world in 2022. So it is almost 10% of jobs. We have case studies dealing with the impact of SSE in different countries. And in the case of Germany, we can find very important role played by cooperatives, banks, rural cooperatives, and buying and marketing cooperatives and housing cooperatives. Consumer cooperatives is also important. And especially interesting point is 70% of milk production are from rural cooperatives. So it means 70% of milk products in Germany are cooperatives products. And we had a research about SSE organizations' contribution to local SDG achievement. And in terms of Seoul case, in the case of Seoul, we found basically first, SSE organizations contribute to all those SDGs. And second, SSE organizations play a particularly important role in achieving SDG 10 and 1, inequality reduction and poverty eradication. And I wonder whether you know the conference organized by UN Task Force in 2019. At that time, we had kind of 43 conference papers presented, and it shows the papers presented at the conference as well show that SSE contributed to all those SDGs. And Brazil is the kind of symbol of SSE development, and in Brazil, about 30% of GDP in manufacturing sector is produced by SSE, and 27% of GDP in the primary sector is produced by SSE, and 1.6% in financial activities are SSE activities, like rotation funds and rural credit cooperatives, etc., etc. Rwanda case is very interesting because Rwanda case is the kind of a representative case where how SSE can contribute to universal health coverage. Rwanda, because of its colonial history, had so many community-based health insurance schemes or community-based mutuals at the village level. Most of them were established by missionaries, and government and the village people recognized the importance of these community-based health insurance schemes or mutuals and made policies at the top and bottom level. So in 2003, population coverage by community-based health insurance was around 7%, and it increased to 85% in 2008 and to more than 90% in 2010 because of these bottom-up and top-down approaches focusing on community-based insurance schemes. So now Rwanda is considered a country with a universal health coverage, and the key role was played by SSE because the more than 90% of health coverage is operated by SSE, mainly community-based health insurance schemes. India shows how a small-scale SSE can be transformed into bigger scale. What is a scale-up of SSE can be found in Indian case. Sewa, you know Sewa, and Sewa is a women's self-help groups, and it started with the small, kind of very informal organizations, and it became a big umbrella organizations, including all those different forms of informal organizations organized by women themselves. And it empowered women, and it contributed to health and well-being of women and children, and it contributed to political mobilization of women, and it contributed to decentralized planning of development. And Sewa itself is a form of scale-up, but we can find different scale-up cases in India too. First of all, there is SHE, Self-Help Groups Bank Linkage Program. This program is the kind of support by Rural Development Bank for self-help groups in rural area, and bank refinance the kind of SSE, especially small micro schemes. So technically, it institutionalized informal microfinance schemes with bank money. So there is that is called SHE Bank Linkage Program. And Sewa shows how you can diversify businesses through SSE networks. And Kudumbashuri is very interesting case in Kerala, Kerala state. And there were kind of village groups organized by women. And Kerala government institutionalized those women's group and incorporated those institutionalized women's group into governance structure. So in a way, SSE became a part of extension of government governance mechanisms. So these different cases show how small-scale SSE can be scaled up in different contexts. So based on these, explanations about SSE, we can think about future research questions. We have so many researchers in this group. So I can think of at least 4 major future research questions. First one is how to measure the impact of SSE on sustainable development. As I said, most impact studies are focusing on cooperatives rather than SSE in general. So we need a methodology. We need empirical cases. We need kind of a resource for this kind of research. So how to measure the impacts of SSE on sustainable development can be a research question you can deal with in the future. Second question I can think of is what makes SSE scale up? I introduced briefly about the Indian cases of scale up of SSE, but there are so many different ways to scale up SSE. So maybe we can think about the research, empirical research about SSE scale up in different parts of the world. And third question is how to make it sure that SSE stays on track to achieve the SDGs. This question is related to kind of survival strategy of the SSE, because SSE is always vulnerable in the sense that they have to compete with market for-profit enterprises. So they have to maintain or secure economic or financial viability while keeping values or strengthening values and achieving social and environmental objectives. It's very difficult task. So we have to think about the research question, how to make it sure that SSE stays on track to achieve the SDGs, or how to strike the balance between values, social and environmental objectives, and economic viability. Last question I can think of is, how should SSE relate with other economies? As I said, there are so many interfaces between SSE and other forms of or other types of economies, like public, for-profit, environmental economies, and all those, say like a post-capitalist approaches or whatever. So SSE is not alone. So we have to think about how should SSE relate with other economies in terms of research or in terms of investigation. This is the first part, and the second part would be the engagement of the UN with the SSE. So I will talk about how UN system started engaging with SSE with kind of official and behind stories. The beginning was the approach by SSE sector to UN agencies. In the early 2000s, SSE sector, like Mont Blanc meeting, now it is called IFSSE, International Forum for SSE, but the Mont Blanc group meeting or other private SSE sector approached the UN agencies, especially UN agencies based in Geneva, to talk about the possibility of SSE as a means of implementation of development goals. And that was the beginning. And UN agencies started having interest in this SSE because in the early 2000s, several UN agencies started to have concerns about the emergence of attempts to mainstream neoliberal agenda within UN system. So, for instance, UNDP established private sector committee in the early 2000s, and Antonio Ocampo, at that time Under Secretary General of UNDESA, was very much concerned about this kind of private sector engagement by UN engagement with private sector, especially focusing on neoliberal agendas. So he suggested to establish kind of a social economy committee as a counter movement to private sector committee in the early 2000s. And like that, many UN agencies started having kind of interest in social economy as a counter movement to emerging neoliberal agendas within UN system. And 2008, Declaration on Social Justice for a Fair Globalization by International Labour Conference mentioned social economy in one sentence. So that would be probably the first time for UN document to mention social economy or something related to social and solidarity economy. And in 2009, ILO, based on this IRC discussion in 2008, organized regional conference, the social economy, Africa's response to the global crisis. So all those social economy or social and solidarity economy stakeholders were invited to that conference to talk about the potential of the social economy for the development. And based on these discussions within ILO SSE Academy was launched in 2010, and UNRISD organized the first UN conference on the SSE together with the ILO and UNNGRS in 2013. This UNRISD initiative was led by Peter Utting, our former deputy director, and he was very lonely at the time because not many people within UNRISD, even within UNRISD, could not understand what the SSE was. And especially Peter was a close friend of mine, and we had so many discussions over the beer. And one day, I remember it was 2012, just after the return from Rio, Peter talked about SSE because he was participating in the event organized by SSE community, and he was impressed. And he read books and articles, and he started talk about the potential of SSE. And at that time, still pretty much, still a little bit, I'm very much staunch kind of a statist. So I had a kind of doubt about the kind of impact of small, informal, scattered organization by people in terms of changing discourses and practices of development. So we had a kind of fierce discussion about the direction of UNRISD research, whether we can include SSE or not. And I was a bit doubtful. So he was very lonely in a way, because I was the closest friend to him, and I had some doubts. So, but he kind of managed to organize the first UN conference, and UN TFSSE was established by 14 UN agencies after the conference. So in a way, UN Task Force was the kind of a concrete consequence of this conference, because Peter organized discussion at the UN conference and suggested establishing this UN Task Force. So many UN agencies agreed, and the UN Task Force was born in 2013. And UNRISD finally established a program focusing on the SSE in 2013. And at that time, I started reading articles and books, and I gradually started thinking, well, if we can have very good linkage between government policy and SSE movement, maybe we can create big synergy, because it can be a good link between macro level discourse and practice and micro level discourse and practice. So in UNRISD, we established a program focusing on the SSE in 2013. And we had workshop, UN Task Force had workshop in Rome, and UN Task position paper was published. And then UN Task Force retreat in Rome was organized, and they discussed the future direction of the UN Task Force. And Vic van Buren, the former chair of the UN Task Force, assumed the chairship in 2017. And second retreat was organized in Toronto in 2018. So all those events were participated by members and observers. In UN Task Force, we have members, which are UN agencies, observers, which are non-UN agencies, dealing with SSE issues at the international level. So any organization dealing with SSE, if they are working at the international level, can make a proposal to be a part of this UN Task Force. And we have kind of internal discussion mechanism to assess whether they can be the observer or not. And then if they are accepted, they can be a member. And they have equal kind of status with other observers. And in terms of discussion, yes, of course, they have equal status with members as well. So we had first UN Task Force International Conference in 2019. We had 2 editions. One edition was Asian edition held in Wonju, South Korea, and the other one was International edition in Geneva and Switzerland. At that time, I thought about Asian edition in Japan too. I remember I talked about this possibility with my Japanese colleagues, but things were not kind of moving smoothly, so I couldn't have it in Japan. So I'm still, I think it is still a pity, not being able to have Asian edition in Japan. I'm still thinking about Asian edition in Japan someday. And Knowledge Hub was established in 2019. And finally, 110th session of the International Labour Conference held a general discussion on decent work and the social and solidarity economy. And the General Discussion Committee adopted a conclusion on decent work and social and solidarity economy. And the UN Task Force's Social and Solidarity Economy Encyclopedia was published in 2023. And finally, the 66th plenary meeting of the UN General Assembly adopts the UNGA resolution on promoting the social and solidarity economy for sustainable development. So I better stop here, and maybe we can talk further, we can discuss further in Q&A. Thank you very much. I better stop here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ilchun-san. That was really, really great presentation, especially about the engagement of the UN with the SSE is something that only you can talk about, right? And then the research questions was also very, very great food for thought. So I will ask Professor Saito, are you there? Professor Saito?
Yeah.
Please provide your comments. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Instead of sharing a screen, I put my comments in the chat. I hope you can see that. Right. Thank you very much once again for a very good talk by Inchon-san. It's my honor to make comments on your presentation. Right. My comments largely four, as you can see in this chart. Number one. Now, when we talk about SSE, I think it's useful to talk about SSE as a whole, because our understanding of SSE is still very limited compared with other countries. Right. So in that sense, today's presentation has been very helpful. Right. Number two. We can characterize SSE in many different ways, but one of the essence of SSE is about economic democracy or democratizing economy. So when we talk about that, we inevitably talk about how we regain our own agency. 日本語では主体性を回復する。ということですね。So what we are talking about here is that we laborers or workers should not be used as a mere instruments to earn profits, for example. So I think that's very important. Now, then I think by implication, what it means is that meaningful economic democracy cannot be realized without no political democracy. So political democracy or political democratization and economic aspects, those two need to go hand in hand. And that's why, for example, RIPES Charter talk about this aspect of democratization in its core principles when they talk about promoting SSE throughout the world. So I think it's probably very important for us to be reminded of that. Right. Number three, as it's emphasized or as it's shown in the presentation, SSE is intrinsic. It is important in itself. So what it means is that SSE is a value-driven economy or value-driven notion, and it is not instrumental to something else. And I think it is very important because one of the reasons what I think why SSE is not very actively discussed in Japan is that usually economy is understood as an instrument for something else. Economy is an instrument for prosperity, or economy is an instrument for something else. And then when SSE emphasizes that it is important in itself, it's not very well understood. The contrast of instrumentality or something being intrinsic is highlighted by, for example, thinking about or discussing about profit. Profit is important, but profit is an instrument for something else. And this may be a silly analogy to talk about this in this group, but obviously we cannot eat money. Money is for something else. Money is a tool to realize something else. So profit is intrinsic. Profit is not intrinsic, but profit is instrumental. And SSE is intrinsic. It's not instrumental. Right. And my comments number 4, the last one. Injun-san has highlighted very important series of questions, possible future questions. One important question that I'm struggling with myself is this. Is SSE fast enough to avert climate crisis? SSE is, in my understanding, one of the very hopeful alternative economic systems, or a hope to realize post-capitalist society. But our time is limited. In order to achieve the Paris Agreement, we probably have 6 or 5 years left to change our entire economic system. Now, realizing economic and political democracy in such a short period of time is really a tough job. So even if SSE is hopeful, are we going into more unlivable future on this planet? One of the reasons why I'm asking this is that scale up is often discussed, but scaling up is not always appropriate. Some SSE entities are viable because it's small. Right. So those are my questions and comments, and I shouldn't waste too much of our time, and I let the other participants to comment or ask questions on today's occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saito. That was really pertinent comments. Inchon-san, would you like to respond some things? So it's not really the question to you, and it was comments. So we can actually, I can have
very briefly,
please.
if I may. Thank you very much for the comments. I mean, they are all important and valuable points. When we talk about SSE, especially in national context, we have to have one kind of consensus about the discussion. I mean, that will make us reduce time for unnecessary debate on unnecessary issues. That is, I think, we have to think about the context of the nation or country to promote SSE. So, whenever I meet, the people or stakeholders of SSE from different countries, they have their own concern from their own context. So those people from former Soviet countries, they are very much concerned about social element or interpretation or implication of the social, because it resonates some unnecessary memories of the old days, and it doesn't help them to promote SSE in their own country. So they are thinking about different ways of dealing with SSE. And I think, Sato Sensei's comments are very much related to Japanese debates or Japanese context. I think in that sense, it is quite important. To me, I think the, 経済的民主化と民主化された経済, I like both, actually, but I think in original sense, 民主化された経済 is much closer to SSE. But it depends. I mean, SSE has also a meaning of 経済的民主化. So it depends on your context where you have to promote SSE. So you can, shift weight in different directions to promote SSE. Secondly, that is related to whether SSE is a social economy or whether SSE is a solidarity economy. Scholars who are researching on specific context of SSE may take this question very seriously, but if you want to promote in your reason, you have to link SSE with your tradition, your own tradition. Whether it is solidarity economy, social economy, it doesn't matter. If there is any traces of any form of economy similar to SSE, you have to utilize it. You have to make a logic why SSE is similar or related to those, inheritance of tradition or culture. That is very important thing to me. And I agree. I mean, the money, profit, they are all instruments, and SSE is trying to use those instruments for values. So in a way, it is quite important to link those values with appropriate means. So I think, sometimes SSE should pursue, we call them surpluses, but in a way, profits. Otherwise, you cannot survive. But, when you pursue those surpluses or gains, you shouldn't sacrifice your values. So you have to strike the balance. That's why I suggested research question about how to strike the balance between, economic viability, values, and objectives. So that is very important question for us. And there is no answer. There is no blueprinted answer to that, because every context may have different questions posed. So we have to think about those questions seriously in different contexts. And climate crisis, I totally agree with your point. This is my personal thought, but SSE is not that strong in dealing with climate crisis. Normally, it focuses on political side and democratic side. Sometimes, because of that, there is a conflict between environmental groups and SSE groups too. So that's why I emphasize the importance of thinking about the relationship between SSE and other forms of economies, especially environmental economies. Whether it is green economy, blue economy, So you have to think about environment in different ways. You have two ways from the perspective of SSE. You can think about that element within the context of SSE, and you can think about that element in terms of the relationship with environmental economies or other forms of economies dealing with environment or climate crisis. Thank you so much, Saito Sensei, for your comments.
Thank you, Chon-san. So I will hand over to Professor Furusawa to open for the questions and answers from the floor. Please.
Can you hear me? Okay. So the time limited. So there are many participants to talk with you. And just firstly, I just put on some big questions. How to promote SSE more practically. So this is put on your mind later. And but the time limitation, and I think open the floor to talk with question. But very shortly, so many question and answer, but so open the floor, and at the beginning, please introduce yourself very shortly, quickly, and a short question or short comment. And just finally, I'll back to my question and to go forward, how to promote SSE activities in UN or others. And there are Mr. Kurimoto sensei and Fujita sensei already. So the Professor Kurimoto sensei, お願いします。
Hello, thank you, Professor Fujisawa, to introduce me. I have very much appreciated today's presentation. I hope we can share the slides, which contains very important information, and I could understand how the ILO and analysts had built up to mainstream the SSE in the UN's agenda. It's great. So I think it's very important to talk about SSE in Japan. My question is, how do you think about the SSE position in Japan? As you have mentioned, you once had thought about the Japan's case in discussing the SSE, but as a matter of fact, Japan has very strong cooperative sector, non-profit sector, but there is nothing with the SSE in the government agenda or academia or media. It's very weak. And that is very problematic for me, as I have watched and observed SSE since 1990s. There are many discussions, and I have been involved in the discussion through ICA or CDEC, MS, etc. So I have some papers published in the English book, but still we are very weak in the macro level. I mean, pertaining to the SSE. Of course, in the micro level, there are many activities and initiatives related to SSE. And I think it's very important to build up SSE from the bottom in case of Japan, because from the top, it's almost impossible in terms of the government agenda. They are very much friendly to the profit-making sector. So I don't expect them to do something, but from the bottom, we can build up. That is very important. So for this purpose, I have written a paper to be published by Japan Cooperative Alliance in this winter, and to promote SSE in Japan. So my question is, how do you give the suggestions or your opinion to mainstream SSE in Japan? That is my question.
Right. Thank you very much. It's very important. Probably another question from Fujita-san, Fujita sensei.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay.
So Ichon-san, thank you very much for receiving me in January in Geneva. I think I learned a lot from you, and it was very inspiring. You know, I'm still new in the field of SSE just for more than 1 year, but you know, I have been thinking about how to make the SSE fly in relation to climate crisis and also even business sector. And then I found that circular economy as part of environmental economy is a very important opportunity, I thought. Then we organized a seminar yesterday to discuss the relationship between SSE and social, circular economy. And this, in that regard, I was reading the book called Circular Economy and social and cultural aspects, social cultural aspect of the circular economy, which emphasize a lot about the SSE. And then also I was looking for the documents of UN and UNRIS, and I found all UN documents are talking about contribution of SSE to circular economy, as long as I read. But I thought it is quite important to incorporate the value of social and human dimensions in circular economy, in which social and solidarity economy should play a main role. In other words, I think it is quite important moment now to incorporate social and human values and dimensions in the concept of circular economy, which is not existing now, because circular economy is motivated to the business and climate, the objectives only, without taking account of social dimension and human dimensions. But there are some small movement that we have to incorporate that aspect. Otherwise, circular economy will not fly. I think circular economy requires something like social solidarity economy, so that we can integrate the concept level, both these social solidarity economy and circular economy in a way to make the social economy fly in the agenda in relation to climate change and the business sector. So my question is that, is there any discussion or movement in place about this approach to not just contribution of SSE to circular economy, but incorporating SSE values at the heart of the circular economy, which is really the main agenda in Europe and China and in other parts of the world now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Also very important and big question. And are there any? Okay, the first three. The first one is Kurimo Sensei mentioned about how to mainstream SSE movement activities in Japan. Are there any comments or recommendation? But later, another one is a more big more big issues, how to linkage with climate change or circular economy or resource depletion very quickly, and how to change our economic system. This is a very big question, not only SSE program, but also more probably a broad range of linkage or combination, and how to how to control capitalistic society or profit-oriented society. This is a very big question. Probably the first comments, Professor Saito-san, his part of 1-2 is mostly related with structural, mainstream how to Japanese SSE situation activities, and also more democratizing. This is a kind of SSE characteristics, organizing activity, how to share in Japanese situation. And the Professor Saito-san is more later parts 3 and 4 question is more big question related with economic system, how to counter SSE activities, or probably not only SSE, but more broad strategy perspective, how to we fight. Okay, so later, probably some other comments or questions, but at first, Enchon Sensei, please answer or comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kurimoto Sensei, Furusawa Sensei, and Fujita Sensei, for your questions and comments. I think we can talk about broadly 2 issues: how to promote or mainstream SSE in Japan. Secondly, how to link social and solidarity economy with circular economy, or in much broader sense, economy related to climate crisis. the first question is very interesting question to me, because we are working with national government and the civil society to promote SSE. And whenever you are going to sell new product, which is strange to your culture or society, you have to identify some linkages between that new product and the products village people used to consume. I think same logic can be applied to the kind of promotion of SSE in Japanese culture. You said you have, and I understand you have very strong cooperative segment, and everybody knows cooperatives, and everybody knows what cooperatives do in Japan, and what is the strength and weakness. I think maybe cooperative sector can start, how to understand SSE from the perspective of cooperative. Or you can suggest, you can introduce new product, which includes cooperatives as a major element to cooperative community. In a way, at the global level, it is very similar logic is working at the global level, because ICA, many of you are participating in ICA, and ICA recently, under recent leadership, changed their attitude towards SSE. Before, there was a kind of tension and somehow uneasy relationship between SSE community and cooperative sector led by ICA. Still, European ICA has a little bit different idea about SSE, but recently, European ICA as well has kind of slightly changed attitude towards SSE. So it is quite important to link SSE with sort of mainstream idea you have in Japan, that is cooperatives. So I think that is very important in terms of promotion of SSE. Second one is the kind of a caveat or caution we have to have when we promote SSE. When we start movement or whatever, it is quite important to have very much solid idea or solid kind of a thinking or thought, concept, theory about the movement you want to conduct. I think that solid thought and solid idea should be different from your kind of practical strategies or practical attitudes towards those guys who want to talk with. Sometimes I come across many times, sometimes a very solid idea is harmful in promoting some ideas. You have very strict concept, very elaborated concept about SSE, and if you start excluding some impure elements from the perspective of SSE, you are failed already. So you have to have open mind, you have to have open attitude, you have to have kind of attitude to identify anything which can be included in under the big umbrella of SSE, rather than exclude anything impure from the perspective of SSE. At the global level, even in UN task force, we have tensions. Sometimes organizations with an interest in SSE, but not exactly SSE element, try to participate in UN task force. And some agencies and some organizations have a kind of allergic attitude towards those organizations, seemingly un-SSE-like. So But I think SSE is not the only means for development. We talked about relationship with other types of economies and all that. Ultimately, what we have to do is to develop SSE to make it a very good partner, very capable partner for development together with other partners, whether it is market economy, whether it is circular economy or whatever. That is my personal kind of idea about how to promote in a specific context. So one principle, one caveat. You should be inclusive. That is one caveat. The other is you should utilize or capitalize on already mainstream idea which has interface with SSE. So those are the kind of simple suggestions I have. Of course, I mean, if you have more time and roundtable, something like that, we can discuss further, but I think I can think of those two things. Relationship with circular economy, in relation to the previous remark, I think SSE cannot change the world alone. It's impossible. And it is not desirable either. We have to make alliance with different approaches, with similar directions, similar goal sets. For us, the similar goal sets or similar directions are development, well-being, and planet health. As long as we are on the same page on regarding those issues, we can ally ourselves with anybody. So, or even if it is the kind of enemy, maybe we can persuade them to be a part of our alliance, strategically or tactically. We have to have that kind of attitude. And, incorporation of SSE values in circular economy and circular economy's value in SSE are happening, actually. I wonder whether I didn't have time to introduce this one, but within UN system, we have network called New Economist Network. It is a network composed of economists working for the UN system in different agencies. And we started talking about alternative economies. What kind of alternative economies are there to help us to achieve sustainable development goals? So we talked about purple economy, black economy, blue economy, circular economy, all sorts of different economies, including SSE. And we talked about the relationship among those different approaches. And we tried to identify interfaces, common grounds, similarities, differences as well, and try to identify common strategy to utilize those different approaches to achieve SDGs. So I think in academia, recently, many scholars and experts from different disciplines started engaging with SS issues. So they tried to incorporate their own expertise, whether it is politics, sociology, or environmental science, organizational studies, whatever, into SSE studies. I think this kind of effort can be helpful to enrich SSE discourse and promote SSE. So in Japan, again, going back to the first question, I think it is quite, you have so many scholars from different parts of the universities and various backgrounds, different disciplines. I think if you incorporate your ideas into SSE, and if you incorporate or provide SSE findings and lessons to your disciplines, I think that is already a promotion of SSE in academia. And that will make the kind of grounds or basis for SSE. And I think, it can be SSE or it can be Nihon Shakai Keizai or whatever, name can be important under a certain circumstance, but you can make a nice name as long as it has all those necessary, important, basic elements of SSE, you can claim we call it dog or we call it cat, even though it is SSE. So of course, I mean, you cannot call it dog or cat, but anyway, similar title to SSE. So I think those things like cross-fertilization of disciplinary expertise and knowledge can be a kind of a very important tool or weapon for promotion of SSE. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very short time, but very big questions. And I saw Satokan-san, he mentioned some comments the chat box, and this is very related suggestion. So Satokan sensei, any comments?
いや、ありがとうございます。今、議論になっている日本の文脈でどうするかっていうことにもし引きつけるとすると、やっぱりその共同組合セクターは非常に重要だっていうのはもう誰しもが認めているわけですよね。でも、おそらく共同組合セクターは SSE のそのビッグアンブレラっていうアイディア僕とても大事だと思うんですけども、日本の共同組合セクターがそのビッグアンブレラに入ってくるインセンティブは全くないと思うんですね。で、現状では全くないのに、共同組合セクターに SSE のことを一生懸命言うよりは、むしろそれ以外の部分で SSE の概念、例えばさっき藤田さんが言ってくれたようなサーキュラーエコノミーでもいいんですけども、そこに SSE っていう概念使えるんだよっていう議論を盛り上げることによって、最終的にはメインストリームである共同組合セクターも入ってくれるように仕向けるみたいな、これすごくタクティカルな戦略的な考え方ですけども、やっぱり日本において共同組合セクター非常に重要だという文脈を前提とすると、そういう考え方もありかもしれないなと思いましたということです。
Okay. Incho-san, are you understand? Probably.
Of course, I mean,
yeah, very good.
Yeah, very good.
So, and I think this area is another big field to discuss. But Miyuki Inaba-san, she tried to comment. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I used to work with you, John. Nice to see you. And so I'm from Kyushu University, but I was also in development field. But right now, back in Japan, I mainly also belong to the development studies as well as quite conservative group, I would say, social welfare, social work sector. But I must say, we can not, I'm actually trying to introduce SSE idea, particularly the values. I don't know how this is going to, what kind of activities or what kind of organization form it will take. However, the social workers, social welfare professionals are the ones that directly contact with people who are left behind from capitalist economy. And in order to not to make a mistake or make it harder for those people on the bottom, SSE is quite good, and a global definition of social work do share a lot of concept, social justice, participation, empowerment, and what else is we really share. However, they are right now, what would I say, provider of the social services and also in kind. They need to get out of the box because we have to deal with a lot of people pushed out of the capitalist market. So they are lining up to receive public assistance. We cannot let it just happen. And even the young people dropping out of the university, they are the group that will be needing the welfare system. So one of the things I'm thinking is every time I write about social welfare SDGs, I try to introduce SSE And so like Il-chong suggests, I would also try to make a group of people who are interested. There are some articles coming up of social enterprise out of the social welfare, social work professions. But I think we really have to be careful about the net term of social and entrepreneurship or social business. Unless we look into the management values, maybe they are just a business and found a niche area to make a profit. And so they would maybe using social business or so. So, and we have to be careful to distinguish the social business who are really doing a good and share the profit among the members, and also participatory democratic way of decision making. And that's my comment. And I think if you also, I think maybe Philippines is the one that the social work group is very strong for SSE to push. If you know any other countries or groups abroad, outside that we can maybe link with, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So time is coming, but we'll continue to. Yes, are there any social welfare field? There are another big, let's say, big solution we have to find. But SSE is one of the very important approaches how to what to say. But you know, so Il-chong Sensei, Il-chong Sensei, are there any comments or reactions?
Yeah. Thank you very much for your comments, Saito Sensei, Satokan Sensei. If cooperatives sector do not have any kind of a realistic incentive to be a part of this SSE movement, I agree. I mean, you have to find a way to engage with them. And my way of engage with ICA was like this. I mean, I explained about the sports associations. So imagine, suppose that you are the head of football association in Belgium, for instance. But there is a election coming for the Olympic Committee. Yeah, Olympic Committee includes football committee, basketball, and all sorts of sports associations. And if football association is the strongest sector in Olympic sports, maybe you can think about the leader of the Olympic Committee as well. You can spread spirit and energies and know-how of football associations to other sports associations, and you can learn something from other sports associations as well, and that will strengthen your football associations further in your country. I think it is same. I mean, cooperative sector can be stronger when they engage with SSE. I can see so many benefits cooperative sector can get. Once cooperative sector started thinking, here are rivals, here are competitors. I think that is already the symbol of reflection or expression of weakness. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be fear of any social enterprises or social initiatives in Japan, I guess, because you have very strong cooperative sector. And when you embrace all those different sectors, initiatives, you can potentially have more cooperatives in the future, because some of them can be transformed into cooperatives rather than other forms of enterprises, especially when they come across social enterprises or social entrepreneurs. social entrepreneurs or social enterprises have two kind of trajectories they can take. One is much more solidarity-based SSE organization, like cooperative, or they can take the path of for-profit enterprises. I saw so many enterprises with social purposes developed into for-profit rather than cooperatives because of many kind of different reasons. In that case, if you are the leader or key players or cooperatives, you have to deal with those enterprises in gray area and talk about the values and principles of cooperatives, which are very similar to social and solidarity economy. And you can help them to transform into one form of SSE. So I think I can see here, some of them are from social and cooperative sector, but cooperative sector is the most important sector of SSE at the moment. And when they embrace the concept and theories and experience of SSE, they can be much stronger. Cooperatives, the strategy to strengthen cooperative sector in the 21st century is to engage with SSE, I guess. And Miyuki, I think welfare sector is the most important functional sector of SSE at the moment in Europe and in other countries. And I don't know why in Japan, it is not that very well developed in terms of organization of SSE. But I think, the modus operandi of welfare system or welfare service itself is very similar to the logic we have in SSE community, contacting customers directly, face to face, and democratic governance and democratic operation of service, and more than anything else, care for people. That is the most important value we have in SSE. So in a way, care service or welfare service is the kind of a key service of SSE. The problem we have is how to connect those welfare services or care services organized by SSE with national welfare schemes and national welfare policy, social policy. So there are different experiences in different countries. So we have to learn those experiences. And I think we have one entry in this encyclopedia about social policy and SSE.
Yeah.
So maybe you can have a look. This is free, by the way. You can get a free access to internet. So,
actually, I was really, really happy to see some chapters dealing with welfare sectors. What was it? Of course, women's self-help group.
Yeah.
That's
there are so many.
and also the health service and the care. That was the first time I heard about that. You kind of included care sector, just because I think the care in terms of people with disability and also big population is the aging. Aging population becoming very, very key sector to because even long-term care health insurance, that's a national policy we have. It's not covering everything, and it's cutting down a lot of services. So SSE becomes, I think, there is a chance for SSE to be more present. Thank you. Exactly. I will look at the encyclopedia more carefully.
Last but not least, Asian perspective for Japan or Japanese scholars. We have so many Asian scholars on SSE in Asia. LIPES Asia is one of the most representative organization, and CELIAC Japan is already established organization. I think you have enormous potential. One thing I'm a bit concerned with is you don't have many international representations. You are too modest. You should have more exposures. You should have more opportunities to engage with international community. I can see the treasures, jewels in Japan, research on SSE practices, but it was not well represented in international community. Japan is like second home to me. You know, I spent very important years in Japan. I have so many close colleagues in Japan, Yamashita Sensei, Miyuki. And I have so many friends there, and I know your commitment and devotion to development, justice, peace. Why don't you expose those commitments and devotions to international community and Asian community?
Thank you very much. The time is coming, but if you might, a few minutes. Okay. Firstly, I put on the chat box, and there are big three questions. One is, do you see the chat box?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and your information or your activities are very important. Many good materials, you know, that's an encyclopedia or some other SDG performance index, and also how to more border and border linkage approaches, very how to integrate those very important materials, informations. So the first one is how to utilize those important materials. For there probably there are some connection organizations or UN group. So how to utilize these important materials? This is are there any let's say relationship or cooperation with this materials dissemination activities? And next one is almost you mentioned about ILOs and relations, and as well as ICS and NGOs. You also mentioned in this already, but the third one is more how to linkage not only inside SAC sectors, but also how to SDGs is more big target all over the transformation of our economy, social and world. So in SDGs, there are many UN activities related with SSE. For example, you know, UN business and human rights due diligence. This is very active for mostly companies, corporations, but also, and another one is, you know, ISO 26000 is governance. Governance guideline is very important, not only companies or cooperatives, companies, but also NPOs and also SSEs also. Those and you know Global Compact or you know SDG. Let's say those are there any relations or what kind of on this September coming soon UN Assembly conference HLP or something, you probably UN visit have any action or preparing some forum or something, right? And coming not more our SDG almost half our turnover. So what's the next stage post SDGs? I think SSE is a very key element to promote social change or economic change. So how to SSE to widen and broader effect on this our economy situation, our unsustainable society. So SSE, there are many big important activities on SDGs. So if you, sorry, time is over, but are there any comments or some perspectives?
Thank you. I mean, Furusawa Sensei, you suggested to have another seminar on these issues.
Yeah, that's right.
Very briefly, what's the stage of the post-2030? I guess the discussion will start around 2016 or 17. And the discussion will focus on implementation rather than design of goals and targets. Problem with this SDGs. Problems are mainly about implementation, especially siloed implementation of the SDGs in fragmented manner. So we found so many conflicts or contradictions between goals and targets or practices pursuing different goals. So my guess is next development goals would be very much elaborated implementation framework, whether it can be called new contract or eco-social contract or covenant, whatever. It will be the kind of very much elaborate framework of implementation. Honest engage with all those activities you just mentioned, business and human rights, HLPF, Global Compact, ISO, and whatever, because in our program, we engage with all those. Business and human rights, we engage with human rights economy debate discourse. The new High Commissioner of OHCHR is very much interested in the concept called human rights economy. So that is kind of economy based on human rights. But as you know, OHCHR is full of experts on human rights rather than economists. So they are struggling with human rights economy concept. And we are engaging with the debate. And Global Compact, we have another task force or discussion group called UN Interagency Discussion Group on Sustainability Reporting Methodology and Indicators, including Global Compact, UNCTAD, UNEP, UNDP, UN Statistics Division, and UNDRIST. We are talking about statistics, methodologies, indicators to measure the performance of economic entities, including SSC and for-profit entities. The idea behind this discussion group is to make UN standard to measure the impact of all performance of economic entities. And UNDRIST is the secretariat of that discussion group, and we have 4 meetings a year. Still, it is very early stage, so we are just exchanging ideas and discuss each other's agenda or whatever. But in the coming month or year, we will start discussion about the standardization of UN protocol or whatever related to measurement methodologies and indicators. How to utilize those materials I introduced in my email. I mean, basically it's free, and you can utilize them for your lectures or training or whatever. And if you want to translate them, you can contact us. You can translate them free of charge, of course, but you have to have received kind of quality assurance, quality control by our communication team. And currently I'm looking for a Japanese partner to translate our guideline or our manual on sustainable development performance indicators. It is the indicators for SSE and for-profit enterprises performance related to SDGs. And it is kind of ESG plus in a way, because it addressed all those weaknesses and problems of existing ESG. So we are currently looking for a Japanese partner who can translate that work into Japanese. The German version was already published, and the Korean version is in the process of production, and Chinese version is under discussion. So more details can be discussed in another occasion. I mean, maybe we can organize another session this time,
Okay,
organized
sure.
by UNLIST, maybe.
Yeah.
I invite all the justice members
Yeah,
to our.
this is very just beginning. So how to step up? So more. Thank you very much for mostly 10 minutes over, but very fruitful and very formative. We can share, and we also okay. And firstly, I'll close this meeting. But if anyone have a time, we can free talk session after informally. So the time is coming, but just now I'm sure we want to promise Incho Sensei to next conference or meeting. Probably it's very important and more big influence on Japanese community or Japanese society to promote SSEs. Okay. In chat box, there are many important informations and files. Please download those materials. And interested in very nice presentation files you can download from chat box. Okay. So if you have time, interested, very intimate.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just I close the meeting conference, but if anyone want to stay and free discussion or communication, a little bit, some time, a few minutes or 10 minutes. Okay. Anyway, very much thank you for this seminar. Very important, and we are very stimulated from your very important activities and informations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.